Welcome back to the Pop Cult Online video podcast, the podcast dedicated to the 10-year-old in all of us, and I'm your host, Rick Gordon. Well, we started out talking about Spider-Man and wound up going down a rat hole, as usual. But we'll be right back after these brief messages.
My favorite heroes are Spider-Man and my Uncle Fred. My favorite heroes are Wonder Woman and my mama. My favorite heroes are the Hulk and Great Aunt Molly.
Underoos. They even come out heroes against warm water and detergents.
Batgirl and my daddy.
Be a Christmas morning hero. Give Underoos the gift that's fun to give.
Superman and my dynamite mother. Mr. Cow.
Yes?
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I don't know. I always end up biting. Ask Mr. Fox, for he's much cleverer than I.
Mr. Fox, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Why don't you ask Mr. Turtle, for he's been around a lot longer than I. Me, I bite.
Mr. Turtle, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting. Ask Mr. Owl, for he is the wisest of us all.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
Here's a great way to buy kids' clothes. The Garanimal system. Just match Garanimal tags, and the shirts and pants will go together. Match zebras or monkeys. Mix and match permanent press tops and bottoms. Garanimals are inexpensive and so durable, most kids outgrow them before they outwear them. Garanimals. Just match the tags for a perfect match.
Garanimals, available at Donaldson's.
There he is.
Hey.
The man.
It is what we call frigid out here in New York.
It is hot here. I just turned off my fan because I didn't want the background noise, but it was in the 80s today.
Wow, and we were probably 90 degrees cooler than that. It was hovering around zero, sometimes in the negatives. But it's been going on for so long out here that we're pretty much everybody's used to it. It's
crazy.
It's an old-fashioned winter. You know, when you get in your car in the morning and it's 10 below.
I don't know what that's like.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Pop Cult Online Power Hour, the video podcast dedicated to the 10-year-old in all of us. And with me is my co-host, Mr. Bob Retall, who is a 10-year-old at heart, just like I am. And I think we had something scheduled, but I want to talk about Spider-Man. Because it's
I just really briefly, I just got the reason we're starting a little late for you is because Janine and I went and saw Kingsman.
Oh yeah, how was it?
Really good. I loved it. Janine liked it too, and she normally falls asleep during action movies. It's bizarre. The more action in a movie, the more she falls asleep. This was an action movie with action that she actually had held her attention throughout the movie. And it was, I'd say it was every bit as good, if not better, than the comic book. I really enjoyed the comic book. This is another Mark Miller creation. Mm-hmm. It was the Secret Service series that he did.
Right.
but well worth seeing. Well, I really enjoyed it.
Well, I've got a 3-day weekend coming up, so that might be something that I could fit into my schedule. Just making some minor adjustments here. Don't mind me. Pay no attention to what's going on behind the curtain. There we go. That should be better. So, you've heard the news about Spider-Man coming back, well, coming home in a way. In the
To Marvel, yeah.
In the cinematic world. Well, what are your feelings? I know you like Spider-Man just as much as I do, if not maybe more. But
I posted something about it on the Comic Spectrum Facebook page the other day, and there was something in the Hollywood Reporter or Variety is what I linked to that was saying, like things that they need to do to, fix Spider-Man. And one of them that I wholeheartedly agree with, stop telling the guy's origin. We understand he was bitten by a radioactive spider and Uncle Ben died. Enough already. Everyone knows who Spider-Man is. For God's sake, don't retell the origin again every other movie when you're rebooting this franchise. And, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
They actually had a trailer for the Fantastic Four before Kingsman.
Mm-hmm.
That was a longer trailer and far less dark than the one I saw online.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they're redoing the origin, and they do a Batman reboot, they do a Superman reboot, and we got to see frickin' Jor-El, and we got to see Bruce Wayne's parents get killed, and
yet again,
it's like, everybody knows the origin of these characters. Hollywood, please, for the love of God, stop telling the origins over and over again. There are so many other stories that could be told.
Do you think it's just Hollywood trying to dumb it down to the lowest common denominator to cast the biggest net to get the most asses in seats?
I don't know. I seriously don't know that they are selling extra tickets by rehashing the origin time and time again. If somebody wants to see an origin story, there's plenty of DVDs and Blu-rays out there that somebody can go and watch the origin, 10 different takes on any of these guys' origins. They don't need another one. Just tell a solid, really good story. They don't retell James Bond's origin every James Bond movie,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or
Godzilla. They did it. They did it after 20 years, when they brought Daniel Craig, even a little bit, not completely. They've never really told his origin per se. But, do you need to see that? You never, like the first James Bond movie, the guy's a spy and he's doing spy stuff. They don't show him training. They don't show him getting recruited into Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the dude is a spy. He's doing spy stuff. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. He shoots webs, spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies, right?
But
you don't need to play the song, and there you go. The origin's done.
It's funny because it's almost as if, let's just say, at Studio A, B, or C, Sony, whoever, well, we've got this property, we want to start fresh, so we're going to tell the story all anew. But the character's been around as long as we have, 50 years. If you don't know that Peter Parker got bitten by a radioactive spider, doesn't really matter. It's not going to change the outcome of the movie, or whatever you're reading. So just move on with your life. So, I totally agree. Stop with the origin stories. And if you do an origin story, stop messing with it. I'm a purist at heart. All right, the planet Krypton explodes. Superman is the sole survivor. That's the story. I don't want to. Because I know at some point it's going to happen. They're going to change it. Well, maybe the whole planet didn't blow up. Maybe big chunks of it survived. Or maybe it was a different planet. Or maybe it just got shifted into a different dimension. Just stop. Peter Parker got bit by a radioactive spider. Bruce Wayne's parents got killed. The Fantastic Four, four people that were closely related, had a little misadventure, and they're paying the price for it. You know, don't mess with the formula. It's worked.
You know, they could actually, if they feel compelled to do the origin, they could do that and play it behind an opening credit sequence.
Right.
And have it over in 3-4 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, it's just like, boom, done. I think they did that didn't they do that in in the Hulk movie with Edward Norton?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they kind of
instead of like rehashing the whole origin, they just kind of boom, boom, boom. They kind of did it like that, and that's a perfectly fine way of taking care of it. I mean, you do it, and you're not chewing up 20 or 30 minutes of the movie doing. I mean, what about people who start reading comics? You know, now. I mean, they're not retelling, well, unless they're like purposely altering the origin, you know, somebody. But I mean, they don't retell the origin every couple of years necessarily. You know, it's like people, they can go buy a trade paperback or go and get a digital comic online. You know?
Well, I think that's one of the successes behind the Avengers and also Guardians, if you really think about it. There was no real origin story or setup with the Avengers.
Right.
It was, boom, action. Same thing with Guardians. You got a little bit of backstory just of them getting together, but they didn't really delve too much into too many people. I mean, a little bit with Star-Lord, but you have to have that grounding to reality and take off from that point. But, you know, they didn't waste a lot of time with it. You know, it was just, all right, here you go. Here's your story. Boom. Off and running. And those movies did very, very well. Thank you very much. Now, granted, you have a half dozen movies setting everything up, but...
You did for Avengers, but not for Guardians. I mean, Guardians is just like, boom, you hit the ground.
Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if DC can do the same thing with the Justice League. You don't have to have everybody... you know, have their own franchise and then try to meld them together at some point when you and I are in our 70s. No, just make a damn Justice League movie. Just take a bunch of heroes, put them together, and, you know, have them fight Felix Faust or whoever.
I'll be really curious how they do or do not attempt to reconcile the TV versions with the movie versions. Mm-hmm. I think what Marvel is doing is very interesting and good in that they are creating a single universe and it blends, but you know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is absolutely in continuity with the Marvel movies. And then they spin off Peggy Carter, and that is in, you know, she was in the movies. Mm-hmm. And it's just like the stuff that they're putting on TV, it's all one big thing. Right. It's not like, well, there's the TV versions of everybody and then there's these movie versions of everybody. You know, or DC, they've got a very successful Green Arrow franchise with Stephen Amell and this Flash one. Stick those dudes in the movie.
Yeah,
you know?
Nothing wrong with that.
Why do you need, you know, I don't know. I have no idea what they're planning to do, but, you know, there's no reason they need to recast those roles for the movies. And it would be, in my opinion, a tremendous mistake that there's at least a 50-50 chance that they're going to make because they tend to do these kinds of things.
Right.
You know, they should take a nod from Marvel on that one and just, you know, one universe. That's the beauty of Marvel. And we were talking about Secret Wars a couple of episodes ago, and I think getting back to a single core Marvel universe with offshoots. I mean, it's not like you can't tell different stories. And, you know, it's like Marvel, even in the old days, you know, they had just one big continuity, But that doesn't mean that you wouldn't have some story every now and again where you'd have, Squadron Supreme come from some alternate Earth or, something like that. It doesn't mean you can't have that stuff as a story every now and again. But having multiple parallel universes that you're trying to run as whole things all at the same time, it robs, I think, one of the strengths of any of these superhero universes, and that is that it's this cohesive universe and all this stuff is kind of happening. It's something that, it's what will be compelling to a lot of people, is that, you get this feeling that if I pick up this other book, it's happening. And that's how they kind of invasively kind of like cross-sell us into other books, right?
Where did it go wrong? Think back to when we were kids. Yeah, the Marvel Universe was one self-contained entity, and that was the thing that made you and I Marvel zombies, as it were, because DC, for the most part, were all, done in one, and rarely did the books cross over. But the Marvel Universe just had a cohesiveness, and where did it disappear? I mean, was it in the
X-Men.
80s? Yeah.
X-Men. Huh. At some point, they grew the X-Men franchise. This is just my opinion on it off the top of my head, right? Mm-hmm. It's just the X-Men franchise grew in popularity to the point where they, even now, they had like 10, 15, 20 X-Men books every month. Mm-hmm. And they started weaving this really tight intercontinuity between all the X-Men books. And it's almost like the X-Men became a separate corner of the Marvel Universe that wasn't as tightly integrated with the other parts of the Marvel Universe. And you had like the X-Men universe, and to some extent, you had X-Men fans. Mm-hmm. You had people who were fans of the X-Men and read all the X books, and they didn't care that much about Captain America. Not everybody. I mean, some people would cross over, but you worked in a comic shop. You met the different kinds of guys, right? It's some people would like X-Men. Like for me, I kind of pulled away in probably the 90s somewhere in the other direction, where it's just keeping track of all the mutants and all this kind of business got too much, and I stopped reading most of the X books. Mm-hmm. And even today, I don't have a single X-Men book on my pull. Mm-hmm. I read Avengers books, and I read Daredevil and Spider-Man, and I'll read the new Ms. Marvel and the Guardians of the Galaxy and all that, and they all feel like they're kind of together. Mm-hmm. But unless they're being pulled into some special crossover, I don't really feel like I'm missing anything by not reading the X-Men books, because they feel like they're their own thing. And then 10 years or so ago, then they broke off this. Well, actually, even before then, the early 2000s, they separated out the kind of street level heroes. They made this Marvel Knights imprint, and now they kind of pulled Daredevil and some of these characters, Black Panther and others. They kind of pulled them out and kind of set them apart. Mm-hmm. And that's for good reasons, and I think they, with all the best intentions, did that, but then they really started fracturing the single Marvel universe, and then they went another step further by creating the Ultimate Universe. Yeah. And now that's like a completely different thing, and it's going to be sitting over here on the side, and we've got we still had a Peter Parker until they killed him over there, and it was Miles Morales, and then they had the X-Men, but they were all different, and then that failed. They had an Ultimate FF, and that was all different, and that failed. And they kept trying to make ultimate versions of all the Marvel characters over there. And outside of Nick Fury, mm-hmm. modeled on Sam Jackson, and Ultimate Spider-Man,
everything else failed.
All of it failed.
Yep.
And ultimately, Nick Fury's the most popular, right? Because that got Sam Jackson's attention. He started being in the Marvel movies, and now, Nick Fury in the Marvel universe, it's like technically Nick Fury's son or something, but he's black now, and he's like, I don't know if he's missing the eye yet or not, but it's just like they're kind of moving the characters closer to one another. And in fact, at some point, they had made Phil Coulson and Nick Fury were like buddies and spies together, and Coulson was whatever, and then they were both S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, but now they've got the new S.H.I.E.L.D. comic, and it's pretty much like the TV show. Like Coulson's wearing the suit, and he's running his team, and he's got Gemma and Melinda May and, these people on his team. And my theory is, like, once we come out the other side of Secret Wars, the comics and the TV and the movies are all going to be the same.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that happening.
And they're going to cool off on Fantastic Four for a while, or ending Fantastic Four. I don't think they're going to bring that back while Sony's got or Fox, I guess, has their hands on that.
They're going to punish them.
X-Men, they're not going to do anything with X-Men. They'll probably keep them off on the side because they're just a hugely popular franchise. But they're not going to make the X-Men like the movie X-Men because they don't own the movie X-Men.
Right.
Right? So the regular part of the Marvel Universe, I think they're going to just make it all cohesive, which is not a bad thing. I mean, it evolves. It'll be what it is. It's something that'll grow, and it'll grow on me, I'm sure. I think they can make it work.
What I ultimately want from them, and I really hate to sound like, the old cranky neighbor, get off my lawn, but I really want it to be like it was around the mid to late 70s. All right, if you want to explore with a weird storyline, just bring back the What If. That was a fantastic book.
Yeah.
And it answered a lot of questions, And maybe you don't, burden yourself with just one What If title. Maybe you have a whole series of What If books. But, keep that separate and distinct to play with. Try out new artists, try out weird storylines that maybe you can incorporate into the main universe later. But, leave the rest of it alone. It's been chugging along for 70 years, 75. Stop tinkering with it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, they've done it to some extent. They haven't had to call it out. I mean, like they did that Old Man Logan series that was set in some future, however he got there back in the day. George Perez and Peter David did that Future Imperfect Hulk. Mm-hmm. They've done The End, or the end of Wolverine, the end of Hulk, where set in the far future when these characters died. And they've done that before where and they're essentially what if kind of stories, but they weren't branded with a big what if. And it's sort of like DC's Elseworlds things. DC, I think, is going to do a similar thing. They're going to I guess there was news, I don't know if you saw it or not, from DC, but they're saying the New 52 is ending. Well, the New 52 is not really ending. They're getting rid of the branding, the New 52, because one, it's not new anymore.
It's like 4 years old, right?
and two, there's not 52 of them anymore, right? It's just
new 25.
The new 32 or whatever. It's just the rebooted 40 poop or something. It's just it doesn't work. Right. So they're when they said we're getting rid of the New 52, and a lot of people immediately were on the internet with, oh no, they're getting rid of all this stuff, and it's like no, they're just getting rid of the branding, they're still keeping, but they also said, we don't feel like, we just want to tell good stories. So they're not going to slavishly feel like every book they publish has to be set in the New 52 continuity, which is good.
Yeah, I like that.
So they're going to still have books that are continuing on the New 52 continuity, but I'm crossing my fingers here. Did you ever read the series Hitman?
No.
This was
have it,
so
but I didn't read it.
fabulous. Garth Ennis and Joel McRae, I think. It came out of that awful Bloodlines crossover. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah.
Weird big bug-like space aliens came down and they like I don't know, they like stung people or something and like gave them, some of them got superpowers. Well, Tommy Monahan was this hitman and he got superpowers, like really just like X-ray eyes or something. So he always his eyes are all weird, so he wears these dark sunglasses everywhere. But it was just like, it was the craziest book because he would go around and they had like a group called Section 8 that would be in his book that had characters like the dog welder. The guy would weld dogs to people and, like Crazy Jacques or something, and the defenestrator, who threw people through windows. To defenestrate is to throw through a window.
Wow.
So this guy would carry windows around and throw people through them. It was a zany book, but it was fabulous. If you ever see back issues of Hitman, it's well worth getting, or trade paperbacks. Anyway, they're bringing back Hitman in Section 8. And it's like, I'm looking at it as, for God's sake, do not try to integrate this book somehow and shoehorn it into the 52 continuity. Just tell these stories, and they're bringing back a bunch of kind of cool concepts with really neat creators after this convergence event that they're having, and then after that is divergence. I guess you converge and then you diverge. It's like whatever, okay.
Right.
But
I'm just looking forward to Batmite. That's all.
Yeah, they're having Batmite. They're having all kinds of things that some of it looks really fun, and to me, not having them feel the need to just take all of these and shove them all together into the same continuity to make them work, and just being willing to say, you know what, this is just a cool story over here. We're going to just tell this cool story. It's like, thank you. That's all I need.
But that's DC's strength, and that's always been their strength is the diversity of titles. Because look at the books that you're closing in on collecting, the early Marvel books. There really wasn't a lot out there. How many titles? 5, 6?
Oh, early Marvel?
Yeah. There wasn't a lot.
There was 8 or 9. I mean, you had Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Tales of Suspense, Tales to Astonish, Strange Tales, Daredevil, and Journey into Mystery, right?
Right.
Is that about right? That should cover and Hulk. Well, Hulk was in Tales to Astonish, so like 8 titles. Yeah, so, I mean, they had like 8, and then they might have had some Western reprints or Sergeant Fury going along in
right,
parallel.
The romance stuff. But those 8 titles were tightly integrated just because they had to be. I mean, the Marvel universe was tiny at the beginning. It was small.
Yes.
DC was huge. They could afford to experiment. They could afford to just put out a book that may or may not, survive on its own. Brother Power the Geek or Prez or any other crazy,
Yeah, most of those didn't last very long.
No, but they tried. They really did. And Bob Hope, his book ran forever. Martin
That was
and Lewis.
a different day when Bob Hope and Jerry Lewis, had series that ran over 100 issues, right? But interestingly, same thing happens today. DC fans, for the most part, want to read about the major superheroes.
The Trinity.
And whenever DC tries to come up with the crazy, innovative titles, they die on the vine sooner or later. I mean, they will usually run somewhere between 8 issues and 24 issues, right? And that has gone back for a really long time if you look at it, with few exceptions. I mean, every now and again they'll actually get a hit, which is good because they're trying all the, like Warlord. I mean, Warlord ran 140 issues, right? That was one of the rare exceptions that was DC's strong offering into that kind of barbarian kind of not really but sort of that Conan was scratching that itch over at Marvel,
right?
But like you said, I mean, most of these other ones, Metamorpho didn't run that long. Plastic
I love
Man,
Metamorpho.
Yeah, I like Metamorpho too, but he didn't run that long. They've tried Martian Manhunter as a series how many times, and it's never taken. They tried Gem, Son of Saturn. They did Night Force. They've done
Night Force.
and Night Force was a fabulous series.
Yeah.
They have done a lot of really, for me, because I like the kind of weird off stories like you do. They always try these, and I'm right there and I read them, and ultimately I'm disappointed because they end up getting canceled sooner or later because the bulk of DC fandom doesn't give a rat's ass.
Right.
They want to read
Flash or
6 Batman books a month. But, you throw, like, when the New 52 first came around, some of my favorite books out of the New 52 were Resurrection Man, Demon Knights, some of these, and they were among the first to go. It's just they were really cool books. They were I, Vampire, had Josh Fialkov writing it and Andrea Sorrentino doing art. Fabulous, moody, really cool, very different book. Died. People didn't want to deal with it, and fortunately, Fialkov moved on to bigger and better things. Sorrentino moved over to do Green Arrow for a long time. Great art. But, Green Arrow has been last. Green Arrow is a good one because Green Arrow has had many runs that have lasted a long time through the years. One of the more successful kind of B-list characters, almost fringing on becoming an A-list,
Almost like Deadman.
Deadman, never able to really carry a series for very long, right?
Yeah, but you'd think he would be just on strength of the writing and art at the time, but it just never.
He was in Strange Adventures, right? And then he's had a couple of series, and none of them lasted very long. Demon probably lasted longest when Matt Wagner, they did a series, must have ran like maybe 50, 60 issues of the Demon. That was probably the longest. That was actually a pretty good run.
Mr.
Suicide
Miracle.
Squad ran for a good, decent amount of time when Ostrander was writing it. Even when Gail Simone and some of these others were writing it, it lasted a decently long period of time. But, every now and again they'll get one that's got legs. But they seem resigned now to take any series that comes out and restart it with number one after no more than 3 years. So it kind of starts to blur the lines on what series have legs and what don't. I mean, even at Marvel, you got like a series like Daredevil. Daredevil has been around forever. One of the, it was in the second wave of Marvel Comics, but, right from the early beginnings, 64 or 65. And, they, like Marvel does, they rebooted it, and Marvel has, like DC, they've gone from, go like 400 or 500 issues and then reboot it. And then it was like, okay, and then that one would run for 200 issues and then they'd reboot it.
I can't
and then
tell
the next
you.
one would run for 80 issues and they'd reboot it. And now they're just like, screw it, just like the latest Daredevil series, they rebooted it after some 20 some odd issues. They didn't even change anything. It was like the same Mark Waid and Chris Samney doing the new #1. They didn't change the creative team or anything. It's just like, whatever, we need to kickstart the numbers on it. We'll just start a new #1.
That's a bunch of bullshit. See, that's something that drove me nuts, just as a collector, because as a kid, when you're buying these books, everything was contingent on that issue number. You knew where your holes were in your collection, just by the numbering. The longer you went, the higher the numbers got, the bigger your collection. And I remember when Action Comics went weekly, I went just crazy because they started screwing around with the numbering. And it was just like, can't you just leave it alone? Can't you just let a book get to 1,000, for God's sake?
Nope.
No book has ever done it yet,
They're rebooting Archie. It's really funny. Next issue is the last issue. I don't know, but I have a theory here. So 664 just came out. Next issue 665. There will not be an issue 666 of Archie.
Unless Damien Hellstrom shows up.
The number of the beast. I don't know. It's just like, it's kind of convenient that they don't have a number 666 of Archie, and they're going to like reboot it and have like some, I think Fiona Staples or something's kind of, they like some really cool creators coming in on the rebooted Archie. That's got me excited, but
I just read The Death of Archie the other night, and what a great book. I was really impressed.
That was, but that's Archie playing with, Archie has never been big on continuity, right?
Oh, God. Archie is the exact opposite of continuity.
It's just like everything just kind of happened. It has like, and here's the thing, and this is not a bad thing. Archie has they have consistency, but they don't have continuity, right? It means that Archie acts like Archie. Reggie is a dick, and Jughead's always cramming cheeseburgers up his head and wanting milkshakes, and and Betty and Veronica are being Betty and Veronica, and Mr. Weatherby is being exasperated, and Pops has a chocolate shop where they all go. It's just everything's consistent, but they don't build off of and slavishly adhere to some story point that happened 20 issues ago or 200 issues ago. It's just like, we have these characters, they act this certain way, and we're just going to tell these amusing, hopefully entertaining stories with these characters, and that's the way that it's going to be.
I would call that continuity without legacy.
Yeah, I just call it consistency, right? And then they created this Life with Archie series that ran parallel in this magazine-sized book. And that spun out of probably around Archie 600 when Michael Uslan came and did that story where Archie's walking along and he's like, I don't know, he gets on some street of life or some crazy thing, and there's like a fork in the road, and one fork he marries Veronica and the other one he marries Betty. And so he goes off down this thing, and he's in this world, and he gets married to one of them, and off that goes. And then that went on for a couple of issues, and it's in the future, and then they come back, and then they go up. He goes up the other one. He marries the other one, and that got a lot of positive reaction from the fans. So they came back and said, "Okay, we're going to make this new magazine-sized book that's not this, in the regular Archie book, comic book size on the stands, are all still in high school. But the Life with Archie carried on from the married life, and it was a split book.
Yep.
First half of the book was married to Betty, and the other half was married to Veronica. And there was some dark stuff. I mean, like Miss Grundy got cancer and died, in like issue 13 or something. And, Cheryl Blossom gets cancer, and she gets chemo, and her hair all falls out and everything. But she is a cancer survivor. And, Kevin Keller, the gay character, he becomes a senator. And that ultimately, you know how that all ended up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's so they brought that forward, and that's, that culminated in the death of Archie around, around issue 36 or something that happened. And it was just like, I think they got to a point where it's like, where are we going with this? We're just going to tell the story and be done with it. But that was so, it flew under so many people's radar, that they were actually telling these really more mature Archie stories with continuity, because those storylines had continuity. It was telling one continuous story from the beginning all the way through the completion. You had this complete set of character arcs for these characters.
Yeah, which
and that
is
was pretty
something
cool.
they've never done. And for the last, I don't know, what's it probably been like 5-6 years, Archie Comics has really been pushing the envelope in terms of what they can do. I mean, for decades, they were just going along at the same pace. But now, all of a sudden, they were the first one to really embrace digital comics. They started experimenting with different art styles. They started experimenting with titles. They had the Riverdale Babies. They had the new kids. They just really started to freshen up the entire line, and still, at its core, have the books that we know and love. And I just really enjoyed that. And the whole Life with Archie storyline was really good, because I didn't feel insulted when I read it. It was almost written, for the reader that's been with Archie for a long time. Well, here's what Archie would be like if it was written by somebody at Marvel or DC. That's what this story would look like. And you're like, oh, okay. But you can still go back and forth. We could do a whole episode just on Archie, because it is a gateway book for a lot of people.
And, it's when they made the horror books, right?
Yeah. That Alex Ross cover still creeps me out.
But, they did Afterlife with Archie that spun out of a variant cover on one of the Life with Archie books. It was like around issue 24, 25 of Life with Archie. They used to do a cover that had nothing to do with the inside of the book, but it was just like some kind of funky spin on things. And one was just, hey, it'll be funny, Afterlife with Archie instead of Life with Archie, and then all these zombies walking around, right? And then someone said, why don't we actually do that as a comic? And they did that, and it's been a runaway hit, and it's really well done. Roberto Aguirre Sacasa writes it, and Francesco Francavilla does the art. Really moody, really good. Now they're doing this Chilling Tales of Sabrina series.
Oh, okay.
Robert Hack is doing the art. Really moody, really cool, but it's really slow in coming out. It's like 2 issues have come out maybe, and I think they're going to re-solicit. I mean, all these books, they they can't seem to get them out monthly like the regular Archie books.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're also coming out with Red Circle relaunches. Remember the Red Circle superheroes?
Oh yeah,
the Shield and the Black Hood and all those characters.
The Fox.
So the Fox, yeah. So they're rebooting all those as more straight, mature, not in a not in a dirty way, but
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Just and they're calling it Dark Circle. And those look like they're going to be really cool, so they're coming out with the Shield has been solicited and the Fox and the Black Hood so far. They're really taking a run at the kind of 20-something demographic. And I know I talk to a lot on Facebook, type to a lot of people on Facebook groups, 20-somethings and people in their, late 20s, early 30s, that whole range from maybe about late teens through early 30s are really digging these books like Afterlife with Archie and Sabrina and all that. I will point these out to them and then they'll, I didn't know Archie was doing anything that wasn't just, the kids stuff, and then they check them out and they're like, wow, that stuff is great. And, there's a lot of fans for Archie. At San Diego last year, they were in a pretty decent sized room. They had the Archie panel and it was packed to the gills.
Mm-hmm.
They had at least 300-400 people in the Archie panel.
Wow.
Which I would not have, a couple of years ago, you would not have seen that.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, our kids today, see, the wonderful thing about Archie is, I don't know what their distribution deal is, but they are the one comic that you tend to see everywhere. I do see it at Walmart with the digest. I do see it at Target. I do see it, pretty much everywhere where you don't see comics anymore. So I was just curious, are kids still picking up Archie comics? Obviously they are, or else they wouldn't be on the shelves. But it's gotta be. Is it still the gateway book?
It's it's gotta be picked up and read because there's no way, like you say, I mean, I worked in magazine distribution for a couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they were not selling on those books a decent amount and making money, they would not be putting that rack space there. They would be putting something else in that rack space that was selling and making money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's very deceptive, because you see the sales numbers that come out from Diamond. Those newsstands are not going through, the grocery stores and Targets and all that. That's not going through Diamond. They do not get their books through Diamond.
Huh.
Subscriptions do not go through Diamond. Archie, for all we know, could be selling as much, if not more, than, some of these, Marvel books. I would almost guarantee half the DC list is selling under 30,000 comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at some of these Archie books, like Sonic the Hedgehog, right? That book is like, I don't know, some ungodly number. It's like up to issue 300 or something, right?
I forgot about that book.
I guarantee you that book, when you take newsstand distribution and all that and subscriptions into account, is selling more copies to kids than 50% of Marvel and DC's lineup.
The cheese judge is about to award the blue ribbon.
If you know great cheese flavor when you taste it, you'll like nacho cheese flavored Doritos brand tortilla chips. Nacho cheese Doritos. The crunch says Doritos. The flavor says cheese. Try nacho cheese, one of 3 great Doritos flavors.
Wheels are a-rolling. Listen to them turn. The big wheels sound of power with speed enough to burn. Winning. Spinning. Braking. The Big Wheel by Marx with adjustable seat, handy saddlebag, and a quick stop racing brake. Braking, winning, spinning. It's the Big Wheel with saddlebag and racing brake. Big Wheel by Marx. If we make it, it can take it.
You know, and I bet you the same is true of these Archie digests that are sitting on the wire. I mean, with all the outlets in, I can't see how there's any way they're selling less than 30,000 copies of those things. You know, it doesn't seem feasible, or they wouldn't be continuing to be distributed in that fashion.
Right.
They wouldn't be profitable.
I think last week we were talking about, sales figures for certain books. I stumbled across a web page, and I've got some sales figures for The Amazing Spider-Man from 66 to 70. Oh no, all the way through.
Is that Comic-Con?
Yeah. Fascinating reading. Let's just, I'm going to say Spider-Man was probably, what would you consider his peak? Late 60s?
No, it had to be in the 70s.
Ooh, not according to the sales figures.
Not according to the sales figures?
According to the sales figures, 69 was his best year.
How much was he selling?
Well, actually, no. He was up there in 77. We're going to look at total paid circulation. Total paid circulation, 69, 372,000. Printed copies, 574. So they're getting a lot of returns. They're tossing a lot of bucks. 372, 1970, 322. 71, 307, 72, 288, 73, 273, 74, 288. It's a little bit of a bump there. 75 is 273, 76 is 282, 281 and 77, 78, 258. 1980, 296. So it was a big jump there. I'm trying to think of what happened in 1980.
That was around when the direct market came around.
Aha. Well, yeah. Okay.
I mean, that was around when I started buying comics at the comic shop instead of at the newsstand.
1981, it drops back down to 242. 240, 241. 84, it jumps up to 261. And then in 85, wow, 326. So it took a big jump there. That was, you get Secret Wars. You had a lot of stuff going on in 85. And then it drops down to 276, 284, 271, 266. 1990. Oh, this kills me. 1990, 334. 91, 340, 92, 544, 93, 592. God damn those die cut covers and holograms and all that bullshit.
Todd McFarlane.
Yeah. 94 drops back down to 353. 95, 234, 96, 216, 97, 159, 98, 119. What is going on?
Yikes. Yeah, well, it's only going to get worse from there, sir.
Oh, man. 127 and 99, 2000, 113, 113 and 01, 122 in 2002, a little bit of a bump. Same for the next year, 122 and 03, 123 and 04, 05, 112. And the only other figures I have is 2008, 105,000. That is amazing to me. That is the Amazing Spider-Man. That is the flagship title of Marvel Comics. What happened? Oh my
it's
God.
Just the market. I mean, you look at it now, and a book selling when I used to do the numbers with John Mayo, it would be the case that only the top few books would even crack 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there was some really serious gimmick going on.
Right.
And that's why, like, for instance, Star Wars #1 that just came out, it sold like something like 1 million copies, right? But they had some egregious number of covers, Star Wars, and you got all the Star Wars fans infusing in. Plus, it was a damn good read, which doesn't hurt, when you do it on, but it's not selling 1 million copies on being a good comic book. Nowadays it's pure marketing. The direct market, 100,000 comics is like a really big selling comic, and like it's an anomaly when you get above that. Like the Obama issue, they went through, I don't know, 6 or 7 printings. That one probably sold 1 million copies of Spider-Man. That would have skewed Spider-Man sales as an average over that whole year, as opposed to you're looking at a single issue circulation or something.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been rush out your circulation statement, issue nearest, filing, and do the sales on that Obama issue. That one was huge. That went through so many printings.
Well, yeah, because that one actually got my father into the comic shop, and I think for my birthday I get this package, and I was just like, "What is this?" And it's half dozen, issues of the same thing, just with different variations. I was like, "Oh, Dad, you fell for it."
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
It's just it can be inspiring or depressing if you look at those sales figures. It just
Yeah, but 500,000 copies at 12 cents a piece is a lot different than 100,000 copies at $2.99.
$3.99.
Yeah, wow, yeah. See how long it's been? Ooh, let me show you.
And they also inflate that revenue figure by putting out more issues than 12 in a year. It's been a really long time since they only put out 12 issues of Spider-Man in a year. For a while it went bi-weekly.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have 0.1 issues, and even in a slow year, now they do these 0.1 issues and stuff. There's probably at least 16 issues in a year.
Wow.
Of most of the major characters' books, when you add in like just extra little things that they do, either putting them out more frequently than once a month or stuffing in some 0.1 issues. So, they're taking and squeezing even at, let's say 75 or 80,000 copies. If you can get an extra 4 books in a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're selling an extra, 300 or so thousand comics in a year, and then you divide that out by the 12, and you're bumping up your average, sale. The money you make anyway on that franchise in a year. Oh, there's your 3D tour.
I think I'm going to have to fix this. Hold on. Let me see if I can... Yeah, that might be better. When I play this back on YouTube, now I think this should be not reversed. This is really cool and fairly inexpensive. Yeah, I was on a 3D binge at this one.
I love that one. Dave
Stevens, yeah. I used to have this poster, and it was kind of creepy because it looks remarkably like my ex-mother-in-law. A lot like her.
She used to walk around like that, did she?
No. Gosh, no. Some more 3D. I'm on a 3D Jag. This one looks good. These are 3D Zone books.
Yeah, Ray's own
Oh,
King
yeah.
of 3D.
Oh, yeah, look at this. Good stuff, good stuff.
Mr. Monsters 3D House of Horror. Ever watch SCTV?
Yeah.
Remember Dr. Tongue's 3D House of Stewardesses?
Yes. And I've got some older books coming in. This was, I probably already have these. I'm too lazy to dig them out. I wanted to keep them close at hand because I love 3D now. And yeah, it's probably just a phase I'm going through, but I do keep my glasses handy.
Oh, I like those. I wish I had a nice pair of 3D glasses like that.
Yeah, these are perfect for, for your casual 3D reading.
I only have like the really crappy paper ones, which make it really hard to read a 3D comic. Did you buy those special or something?
To be honest with you, I have no idea where they came from. Like most of the things in here, I may have gotten them off of eBay, but you know what? Don't worry about it because I have more than one pair. I've got a box that's going to head your way soon.
All right.
I still got to get your Uncle Scrooge book out to you. That's sitting here. But I don't trust the postal service, so I want to make sure that when I send you a package, it's...
Wait till you have your thaw.
It's not going to thaw. I live on Hoth. It's going to be like this forever.
An Imperial Walker walking up your street.
The downside is, I don't know if you can see this, but the tip of my thumb is split open.
Yikes.
And that's from working outside in the extreme cold. The skin gets really brittle, and being where it is, it just won't heal up because I'm constantly, moving it and splitting back open, and I'm ready for summer. I can just tell by the look on your face you don't want any part of this. Not a bit.
Yeah, not a winter guy.
You don't want to.
I mean, I've traveled to places that it's cold. When I used to work with IBM and I did the consulting all around, but it's really different when you're going to some hellaciously cold place and you're there for a week. Doing a consulting gig, or you're just there for a couple of days visiting a customer, than it is living in it. Because I know that I'm here and I'm driving on ice, which I do very terribly. My car is under a snowdrift or whatnot, and it's freezing cold. That's one thing, right? I know that I'm getting on a plane and going back to some place where it's, 60, 70 degrees warmer at the end of the week. It's not the same as living in it like you guys do, and that's why my dad moved out to California in the first place back in 1960, because he was shoveling the house in Chicago out from under some blizzard while my mom was watching the Rose Parade on TV, and everybody was in shirt sleeves, and it was like sunny, and it was January 1st, and they were freezing their hoo-has off in Chicago.
Here's a perfect story. Tomorrow's going to be Valentine's Day, so of course, I waited till the last minute to do anything. So, at my job, about not a half mile, maybe a quarter of a mile away, there's a little candy shop. And it has terrible, terrible parking. So, it wasn't going to be worth it for me to get in my car, drive over there, and then circle around Schenectady looking for a parking space, because the place is going to be packed anyway. So I decided to walk. It was very cold out. I want to say probably close to zero. I got about 20 paces and my breath froze on my mustache and beard. I mean, you could feel it. It just, there was ice. And when I laughed about it, you could hear the ice breaking and kind of chunks falling off. And I said, this is hilarious. I wish Bob could see this. Because I have my big furry Russian hat on and this big frosty mustache. And now the air is so cold it hurts to breathe. Because it's extremely dry, it's extremely cold. Now your lungs start to burn. And it's just like, I can't believe I'm doing this, all of this for a box of chocolate-covered strawberries. I hope she appreciates this. And then at one point, I had to stop for a minute to do something. And it was like, this is how they'll find my body. They'll find a frozen corpse on the side of the road. Because there's so much snow, there's no sidewalks. So I'm walking in the street, and people are driving like crazy. So I was like, this is going to be like the saddest picture in the newspaper, like this dead frozen body and this little heart-shaped box with these, these chocolate-covered strawberries. Perfectly
Are you worried
preserved.
that the strawberries would just like freeze while you're walking back to the car? You get like this crystallized frozen fruit. That's not good.
I was just like, this is crazy. Who would want to live here? It's like, wait a minute, I live here. Oh. And we were, like earlier in the week, I think it got up to 29, and you had thought it was spring break. People were just so happy that it was up in the 20s. Woo! Wow. You could take a couple of layers.
That's why cost of living is low there.
Oh, man. It's a lot of fun. I might have to move to Seattle. Oh! What is that? Look at that. Nice. Golden Avenger.
Second appearance of Iron Man.
The Golden Avenger.
First appearance of the golden armor.
Yeah. Now, how long did that armor last? Not that long, right?
Maybe a year.
Really? That long?
It was gone by 50. Well, actually, less than a year. Because I got 50 last week. That was the first appearance of the Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the red and gold by then. So it was... actually, it didn't last a year. Probably about 6 months.
Okay. When
they went to the red and gold. It's interesting how quickly these things changed, It's like, okay, he's gray. It's just like actually iron steel, right? It's like he's Iron Man. It's not golden, right?
Well, he's a rich guy. And
then it's like, okay, whatever, it doesn't look as good. Let's make him yellow. And then, the sleeker armor is so cool, though,
What's your favorite armor?
I like the classic red and gold. No nose.
You don't like the nose?
No,
I like
was
the nose.
never a nose
I like the
guy.
nose with the roller skates. So, something similar to this.
Pretty much that.
Yeah.
That's I don't like the square chest thing. I like it round.
I always like the little... Yeah, pull one out if you got one.
Basically, I'll get my...
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yes.
That's the classic. That's kind of like, and the little extra pods on the hips. Yep.
And he had the stuff on the gauntlets, and
yeah.
I always like the rivets over the eye holes too.
Yeah, and this one has the rivets. It's probably difficult to see, but
the rivets on the hairline.
Yeah,
there? Yeah,
on the line in between the yellow and the red.
Nice.
This is the classic. To me, that's the classic Silver Age Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like. And then even they did minor. They didn't change that much from this point. I personally really, really like the way Gene Colan used to draw Iron Man when he was doing Iron Man back. Colan was drawing so many things at the same time. He's doing
Cap.
Iron Man. He was doing Daredevil.
Yep.
He was doing Cap. He was doing Submariner.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All at the same time. And now you got artists that have all these extra tools available to them and everything should maybe be productivity enhancers, one would think. But, they're like, we can't do a book a month. If we do 3 issues of a book, we got to take a couple of months off to regroup and play some Halo.
Did you ever remember Gene doing Spider-Man? I don't think I've ever...
No. I mean, I'm sure he drew him at some point somewhere, but not
maybe
on...
just one panel, but I've
not as a gig,
yeah.
No.
I always thought that was interesting, and I wonder if there was some type of, internal politics involved.
It's just, I think that Spider-Man was Romita's gig, right? And then Gil Kane.
And just like Kirby was FF. I mean, I don't think I've
Kirby
seen Gene.
was FF, and
Gene's never done FF as far as I know.
No. Well, and after Kirby left, Buscema took FF for a while.
Yeah. Huh.
Buscema did a really nice job on a lot of those superhero books, but he always liked doing the barbarians and stuff more,
Yeah,
I love his Conan. I mean, a lot of people, it's like they love that slighter Barry Windsor Smith Conan, but Buscema's beefy Conan with the, fur loincloth, that is my Conan. Just like I have always preferred the Romita Senior Spider-Man to the more wiry Ditko. I mean, sacrilege for some people who really dig, Ditko.
Listen, I appreciate.
I don't mind Ditko, but my Spider-Man was, I started reading Spider-Man on Romita. But, that's saying like Daredevil. I started reading Daredevil when Colin was doing Daredevil. So my Daredevil is Conan. I mean, Conan is Colin, right?
Yep.
And Buscema, I think, was doing Thor when I started reading Thor. So, that's what comes to my mind when on those characters, But, I read FF. Kirby was doing FF, so my FF is the Kirby FF,
I don't know how many episodes ago we had talked about favorite artists, but I don't know if I mentioned him, but Rich Buckler had a hand in so many books, and I think he's like probably one of the most underappreciated artists out there.
He did Deathlock, didn't he?
Yep, Deathlock. He did Black Panther. The jungle action stuff. He was on the Avengers. He was on the FF.
Wasn't Billy Graham doing?
Some
Billy Graham was doing a big chunk of Panther's Rage, wasn't he?
Yeah, later on, but Buckler started it off.
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah, and just I know him on Facebook now, and he's just a wonderful guy, and he just needs more props. More people need to know about him because he's just one of those guys that he was a workhorse. He was a journeyman, and his art spoke for itself. It did the job, and
right.
He just wasn't a superstar like some of the other guys. He needs the recognition that we can give him. So
yeah, I mean, none of those older artists ever really got. I mean, in the later days, people come to appreciate him, but none of them were superstars the way that now it's almost like somebody will come along and they'll draw 3 issues of a book that people think looks really cool, and suddenly they're like this huge star, that like everyone's like, oh, look how great this person is, and they're like throwing money at him for commissions and all this kind of stuff, which is, and these guys drew like a couple of 100 issues of something back then and got nowhere near that level of acclaim.
Putting out 2-3 books a month, just chugging away and getting absolutely no recognition for it. So that's what we're here for. Oh, you know what? Next episode, we have to do the dollar books. That's what it was. I dug up a couple of copies, and I'd forgotten how much fun that they were. And at the time when I was a kid collecting, they felt like they were the best value, you know?
You got to get a clip of that guy from RoboCop to cut into that episode. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. I will do that. We're not going to spoil it for anybody. Just watch our next episode.
Anyone who's watching this should get that.
Yeah. If you don't get it, you shouldn't be watching, but we're glad you're here anyway. All right, buddy. I'm going to go because it's late.
I will plug Comic Spectrum really quick.
Yes.
Put up a blog. Actually, I'm going to put up a blog about digital comics. Coming up, there's a new digital comic service out that is called Scribd.
Oh, yeah.
10,000 comics they added, and yeah, you saw Susan was asking me about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's where I read Death of Archie, and last night I read a book that I'd never heard of called 1985. Fantastic.
Oh, the John Paul Leon art? Yeah, that was
what
a good...
great book.
Oh, wait. Is that what... Am I thinking of the right... It's a Marvel book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Millar, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, good. Great book.
Good stuff.
Oh.
Good stuff. So, I looked at it, and I've read 95% of the stuff that's on there. But for people who've read less than I have, which is pretty much everybody, it seems like it's a really damn good deal for $9 a month.
Yeah.
In addition to all the comics that are on there, they've got audio books and prose books and all kinds of stuff.
Something for everybody
that you have access to. There's something for everybody on there. It's just like wow, look at all the stuff that's on here.
It's actually a really good service for me because you probably don't know this, but I've got in digital form every Marvel book from 39 up until 79, and every DC book from Action 1 up until I think 84, 85, somewhere in there. So that chunk is taken care of, and the big chunk from the 80s up until the early aughts, that's where I kind of dropped off, and that's where this service fits in nice because I can just go in and just read the books that I need to read to kind of fill in the blanks. But yeah, it was described like Netflix for comics, and that's exactly what it is. The problem with my digital collection, it's so vast, it's just hard to navigate through unless you're looking for something specific. The way this is laid out, it's really fun to browse. Just go in there, and it's like walking into a virtual comic shop. I would say even easier than the digital services offered by Marvel and DC or Comixology.
Yeah, I mean, Comixology has some great. I mean, I talk about it in the blog. I mean, the Comixology, I think, is great for more current stuff, and then they have cheap sales on older things. And they have a lot of free comics, although their free comics are skewed towards, here, read the first issue free, so you'll buy the subsequent issues, and pay money for them because, they're a business. They're trying to sell something.
It's the drug dealer.
But, you can read lots of stuff, and when you find something you like, you can then, delve into it. There's some other all-you-can-eat models that are out there, but they don't have Marvel. And it's just and this doesn't have all of Marvel, but
it's got
the stuff I browsed through on there, I mean, it was some really stuff that was on there. I mean, they had like Walt Simonson's Thor and Ed Brubaker's runs on Cap and Daredevil, and just lots of really good, they had Runaways and other stuff that was really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I put a bunch of issues of Optic Nerve in my library.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on there that is like, wow, look at all this stuff that's on here. It's just, I've read it, so I can say, oh yeah, that stuff is. I couldn't find a way, and maybe it's there, and it just when you're not logged in, it's not as easy. I mean, to browse through everything that they've got. I was able to kind of see samples of what they had, and from there it was, boy, they had a lot of really cool stuff listed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much more is hidden under the covers of, when you actually subscribe.
Yeah, I didn't drill down too deep, but I just did a couple of quick searches just to kind of get a feel of, what they had, and I was impressed. So, I hope that the service takes off, because that's something I'd like to see last for a long time, because something like that would make a great gift, too. Especially for somebody who's got, a tablet who wants to get into comics. This is a great jumping off point.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just, again, not everybody wants to have a big physical collection of comic books. And if you don't, that's fine. But being able to read pretty much as many comics as you want for $9 a month, that is really compelling. It just, that's the price of less than three. I mean, if you bought $2.99 comics, that's 3 comics. If you were buying dollar comics, that's 9 comics. I mean, if you read at least 9 or 10 comics a month off of that thing, you're getting, I think, a really good deal out of it. And if you're reading 20 or 25, you're getting a phenomenal deal out of it.
And and we're just talking about the comics. I mean, just audiobooks alone, and the other books. Oh.
You could pick like an audiobook off there and then be listening to an audiobook while you're working on your iPod. You can, I look at it and it's like, wow, it looks like a really, really cool service.
Maybe we should get in touch with them.
Yeah. So, anyway, and you're a fan of Alex Ross, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So check out my blog also, because I found a page on they had at the Norman Rockwell Museum a couple of years, they had a Alex Ross exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And I linked to it. They still have it up on their website, and they've got some Ross. But the cool part about it is each one of them's got a little audio file where he talks about.
She froze. Where'd you go? Uh-oh. We lost Bob. Oh, boy. It's curses.
Yeah, I think it's just at some point it says, you guys have talked enough. Anyway. You should look at it though, because
that's close by, isn't it? To me,
it's the exhibit was 2 years ago, but it's still on the web page. But there's these audio files on there where he's talking about the art, and there's one piece that he did when he was 4 years old.
Oh wow!
And there's another piece on there he did when he was 10.
Nice.
And they look like a 4-year-old did it, right? It's crude. But it's fascinating that you see somebody who drew like this now paints like Alex Ross paints, and just hearing him talk about it is really cool. Anyway, just go to Bob's blog and you'll see it on there.
All righty. Now nobody can see you right now, but we can hear you, so we're just gonna call it a night because Skype is not our friend.
Okay, we will talk next time about dollar comics.
Dollar comics. Thanks for stopping by. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay, bye.